everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley and I like to talk about books, and in this video I'm going to be reading a couple new thriller books. This video was a very impromptu decision, so this is actually future Ashley talking to you about what happened to past Ashley. But basically about 2 weeks ago, I was just craving thrillers. I have been missing out on them. I don't feel like I've been reading enough of them this year, and I was just ready to pick some up. So I didn't have an intro to this video, and I wanted to give you something to set up your expectations for what this video is going to include. So I'm going to be reading 3 new thriller release books in this video. One is Every Value Break by Peter Swanson. This is a story about this couple that gets married and they're on their honeymoon, and then this man arrives on their honeymoon, and it's the man that the wife had a one-night stand with at her bachelorette party, and she might be in danger and she doesn't know if she should tell her husband about it or not. The next book is Who is Maud Dixon by Alexandra. This is a literary thriller that is about this woman who works in publishing, and she gets the opportunity to work as an assistant for this very famous author who writes under the pen name Maud Dixon, and nobody knows who Maud Dixon is. And then the third book is Finlay Donovan is Killing It by Elle Cosimano. This is a story about an author who is talking with her editor or agent in a Panera about the plot of her next crime thriller book, the murders that are happening in the book, and a patron overhears her thinking that she is a hired assassin basically who kills people and hires her to kill someone. So those are the 3 books I'll be reading in this video. I had such a fun time making this video. I am so glad I decided to pick up the camera when I was reading these books because it was just such a fun time. I am so glad I got to dive back into thrillers, and I hope you enjoy the video as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and send you back in time to past Ashley as she was just deciding to pick up a thriller book. This is a very impromptu decision to film, so excuse this. But I am super in the mood to start reading thrillers. I feel like I have not been reading enough thrillers this year, and that is just my favorite genre, so I really want to catch up on some thrillers that I have on my radar. And the first one I'm going to start with is Every Value Break by Peter Swanson. Now, if you know me, you know I don't like Peter Swanson's books. I am 0 for 2 on enjoying anything I ever read from him. I read The Kind Worth Killing and 8 Perfect Murders, and I really hated both of them. I don't really like his writing style or his tone. So you might be wondering, Ashley, why are you reading another Peter Swanson book? Honestly, I don't know. The hype has caught me for this one. This is a story about a woman who is getting married to this like billionaire man. She never thought she would end up with someone like him, but she's like, all right, cool, found my match, I'm gonna get married to him. And then like right before the wedding at her bachelorette party, she has a one-night stand with this mysterious man who doesn't give her his real name, and then she wants to just like leave it behind, move on. She's like, yeah, I do want to marry this dude and be with him. But then the one-night stand guy shows up at the wedding, and then weird things start happening, and she's freaked out and she doesn't know if she should tell her husband or like handle this like stalker dude on her own. And then like everything seems a little amiss at the resort. So that just sounds interesting to me. Also, the cover gives me like beachy vibes, which gives me the guest list vibes, which I love. So I'm willing to give it a chance. If I hate it, I won't be surprised, but if I love it, I will be surprised, and I think that's worth taking the risk. Also, I'm going to be listening to this one fully on audiobook, and I don't think I have done that before with the other Peter Swanson books I read. I think I read those both physically. So I also think listening to it on audiobook might help me not get so like dragged down in the tone of his writing style, or it might make it worse. I don't know, but we're gonna give it a try. So I have the audiobook on Scribd. It is 7 hours and 38 minutes long. Gonna probably listen on 2 times speed, so thinking I'll get through this one pretty quick. I think this is also the book club pick for Books and Lala's Literally Dead book club, and maybe Gabby Reed's book club too. If it's not her book club pick, I know she's at least reading it too. So I was just getting FOMO. I just need to know if I'm gonna like this one or not. We're gonna give it a try. Pausing for a quick update because I literally feel like I could read this book all in one sitting and then just not tell you anything about it. So pausing at the start of chapter 13 out of 34. I have like 5 hours left fully in the audiobook, but that's like 2.5 hours on 2 times speed. I am really liking this. and I'm very surprised. I don't know if it is the audiobook that is helping me enjoy it more, or if it's the fact that it is told from the perspective of a woman character, and the other books I've read from Peter Swanson, one of them was entirely from a male perspective and one of them was like half and half male and female. And so part of me is wondering if I just like the way Peter Swanson writes women characters better, or if it is the audiobook. I don't really know. All I know is I'm having a good time. So I just got to the point that the synopsis tells you about in the story. The couple has gotten married. They are now on their honeymoon and she has ran into this guy that she had the one night stand with. But there are so many details you get leading into the story about her past and her past relationships and her parents and how she met this guy she's marrying, and you hear about the night of the affair at the bachelorette party. So tons and tons of details. I've been taking a lot of notes on my phone because I just want to make sure I remember them all, so I can try to piece together the mystery of what's going on. But so far I'm having a good time. This is just reminding me why I love thrillers so much. I just get like giddy and happy when I'm reading a thriller, and I can just sit down and read a thriller all in one day, and that's like all I want to do. Like I don't want to watch a TV show. I don't want to do anything else that's going to require my attention. I just want to sit down and listen to or read a thriller, and I can do that all day long. So this has been really nice because some of the books I've been reading lately have just slogged through a little bit. Like when I was reading Dracula, I really liked that book, but still it was just like not as exciting to sit down and read as modern thrillers are to me. I just love a modern thriller. I don't want to give any spoilers away, especially with thrillers. I know people can be sensitive to details, so don't worry, no spoilers to come, but there is just so much suspense building up right now. I have so many questions, I have so many theories. I just can't wait to see where this story is going to go. Okay, I finished, and that was a 5-star book. I am so shocked. I can't believe I loved a Peter Swanson book so much. I can't believe it was a 5-star read for me, but it was so good. I've actually seen a lot of people that I know really like Peter Swanson's books not enjoy this one, so I thought I potentially might not enjoy it even more than I usually don't enjoy his books, but it was kind of the opposite. I didn't enjoy his other books that I've read, but I love this one. But I've seen people love his stuff and then be really disappointed with this one. And the main complaint that I've seen is that this isn't as twisty as his normal, like, crafty work. I don't know if I've ever been like surprised by his plot twists anyway, so I don't even know what people are really talking about. I did not think The Kind Worth Killing was super surprising. It follows a pretty traditional mystery story plot. And then 8 Perfect Murders I didn't think was like really twisty. So I never had this adoration of Peter Swanson's twisty writing anyway, but I thought this was a ton of fun. I thought this was pretty twisty. Like I said, I don't want to give any spoilers away for what happens beyond the synopsis that I've already described. You just don't know who to trust. There's a lot of gaslighting both within the book, but also you feel like you're being gaslit as a reader. It's so confusing and it makes you feel so many things. It's such high intensity. There's so much action. It's so fast paced. You feel dread and anger and anxiety and confusion, and it just was so much fun. I could not stop reading it. I read it all in the past like 5 hours. I just listened to it and could not stop. So I would highly recommend this one. I guess if you usually like Peter Swanson stuff, maybe you won't really like this one as much, but if you have never liked Peter Swanson, give it a try, because I really like this one, even though I haven't liked other stuff I've read from him. I don't know what I'm going to be reading next, so I'll just let you know once I decide. So the next thriller I've decided to pick up is Who is Maud Dixon by Alexandra Andrews. I haven't heard many people talk about this book, but I did hear Gabby from Gabby Reads talking about it, and I saw a little bit over on Bookstagram. And from the little bit I heard about it, I was intrigued enough to purchase it and pretty much start it immediately. So I don't really know what this book is supposed to be about, and when Gabby was talking about it, she said that is the best way to approach this book, so I've intentionally stayed away from learning more about what it is about. All I really know is that this is set in the New York publishing world, and there is this mysterious author named Maud Dixon, but it's a pen name, and nobody knows who Maud Dixon is, and it follows a girl who gets the opportunity to work for Maud Dixon. I started reading this and I am just about 80 pages in. It is a little over 300 pages long, so I've made a pretty good dent, and so far that's all I've gotten into the story is when our main character gets to go work with Maud Dixon. The beginning of this book, super slow. So many details. I wish the story would have just started with our main character getting the opportunity to work with Maud Dixon, and then we would have gotten background information through exposition or flashbacks or something else, because for the first like 60 to 70 pages, you're just learning about her job and her life, and she's a very bizarre main character. There are a lot of weird things with her character. She comes off very apathetic and is hard to relate to, doesn't really have like good connections and relationships with other people, ends up having an affair with a coworker, and that's kind of the first things that happen in the story. She's also extremely obsessive and takes things way too far, so I'm very interested to see where it's gonna go. I have absolutely no idea. I probably won't tell you anything else about the plot either, since it's better if you know less. I'll just be giving you reactions, how I'm feeling about it, if I enjoy it, if it's surprises me. I think too this is more of like a suspense novel than a thriller, which I know those get conflated. So I'm expecting this to be like slower paced and more literary rather than fast paced action thriller, but I still think I might like it because it does have me intrigued so far. So I'll update you as I read more of this. So I am a little over halfway through Who is Maud Dixon, so I thought it would be a good time to update you. I will say what I've learned is that this is definitely a very slow burn suspense book for sure, which I suspected, and also for sure take the tip of not reading the synopsis before you start this book, because the synopsis gives away literally this much information, which is 180 pages worth of the book. You learn everything that happens in this part of the story in the synopsis, and it kind of ruins it, honestly. So I'm very glad I did not read the synopsis beforehand. I was just kind of trailing, reading one line of the synopsis every now and then to see how far I had gotten through the synopsis, and I could not believe how long it took me to get to the full synopsis in the story. All you really need to know about this book is it is about a woman who gets the opportunity to work with a writer who goes under the pen name Maud Dixon, and nobody knows who Maud Dixon is. That's really all you need to know. The story takes some turns, some crazy things start happening, and you really feel a lot of tension building up, as you can feel that you're building up to something, but you don't know what. Whereas if you would read the synopsis, then you would know what you're building up to the whole time, and you would be like, oh my gosh, when are we gonna get there? When is that gonna happen? So I'm very, very glad that I did not read the synopsis beforehand. I will say, now that I have gotten to the point in the story where the synopsis leads up to and where a change happens in the story, I'm kind of less interested in it now, honestly. I feel like I know how the rest of the book's really gonna play out in the last 100 pages or so at this point, and I'm not as excited for it because it seems kind of just obvious how the rest could play out. I could be wrong. It could get more exciting. It could have some twists and turns. It could pick up from here. But I kind of feel like I got the gist at this point, and I really wish it would have just started later in the story. This is like one of the most common creative writing critiques, is that a lot of writers will start their story too far in the past and need to start closer to the end of the story. And like creative writing teachers will even sometimes tell you you need to start your story where you ended it and like write from there. And when I was in school for a creative writing major, I didn't always understand that, and I was like, gosh, what do you mean? Like, why would you do that? You're missing all the best parts if you don't give all the lead in. But after years of reading and years of getting that degree and reading short stories and writing short stories, I just so agree with that advice. Like, I so often find that I wish stories would have started closer to the end than they did, because I'm like, we spent so much time talking about all this stuff that we really did not need to talk about, and you could have cut out the first 100 pages of this book. It would have been the exact same book, but we would have gotten more interesting things happening where the actual story is. Because I feel like as a writer, you know your characters so well and you want to tell the readers everything about them, but it's like, we don't need to know all that right now. We can learn that through exposition or a flashback or something. Like, there's different ways we can figure that information out. We don't need to start with the character like a year before the interesting thing happens. We need to start the day the interesting thing happens and see how that affects their life. Of course, that's not going to be true for every story, but for this one in particular, I so was like, gosh, I wish the story would have gotten going way faster, because we just got so many pages of things that we did not need to be spending that much time with. And I had some theories of where I thought the book was going to go, that I was thinking, okay, maybe it makes sense why we're getting so many details, because maybe this is going to come up later in a different kind of way with some things we've been hinting at and some themes I've suspected. But so far, none of that has become important. So we'll see if it does. Maybe I'll change my mind on that. I'm definitely still enjoying the book. I definitely do still want to finish it and see where it goes. And like I said, it could surprise me. There could be fun twists and turns. And I still overall really like where the story has gone and what this author is doing in this book. I think it's pretty cool. So I'll keep you posted. I'll probably just go ahead and finish the rest of this book and then check in once I've finished with my final thoughts on it, because it goes pretty quick. And then we'll see what I think of it. I was wrong. This was incredible. I am so pleasantly surprised with how the rest of this book played out and how twisty and surprising it was and how fun it was to read. I feel bad for ever doubting it because it was so good. I still think I can only rate it like a 4-star because the beginning was so slow, and I still think the first like 50 to 80 pages were totally unnecessary, but like the rest of it, really good, really fun time, really glad I read it. Like I said, I don't want to give any spoilers about this book, so no spoilers to worry about, but just know the end of this is so much fun. It is truly like a guessing game. It keeps you hooked, the pace picks up, and I couldn't help but like continually theorize behind what was going on and trying to figure out how the rest was going to play out. Even though I thought I had it all figured out at first, I was like, oh, how could this possibly get more interesting? It got way more interesting, and I really had a good time with it. If you're wondering whether or not you'll like this book, if this is the type of thriller for you, there's a couple things to know about it. First is that it is definitely a slow burn, much slower than some of the thrillers you might be used to. It takes a very long time to build up. It's also a little bit more of what I call like a literary thriller, where it's a little more focused on the writing and developing scenes rather than keeping you fully entertained and like flipping through pages and sacrificing good writing at times to keep the story moving. This is definitely more of a literary thriller that is focused on the writing and trying to do high quality writing, which I enjoy, but like, you know, it's definitely a different vibe from a thriller. And then this is also a book with just morally gray characters, I guess I would say. If you like those books where you don't know who to trust, you don't know who to believe, and you don't know who to root for, this is definitely in that category. I really did not find myself like loving or rooting for any particular character in the book. It was all just kind of a mess and a train wreck, and I wanted to see what happened. Really, the only complaint that I have about this is just how slow it was in the beginning and how much extra detail we got for it seems like no reason. There were some things from the beginning around page like 80 to 150. There were some details in that section of the book that ended up coming back into the plot later and made sense why we were getting those details and why I was getting so granular with some of the scenes when it felt like they were boring and they weren't moving the plot forward, which is kind of what I suspected with some of those details, but still like stuff from the very beginning didn't really fall back into the story. But if you can get past the first like 80 pages, which seems like a lot, but like, I don't know, just don't read the synopsis, just don't know what you're getting yourself into, and I think you'll have more fun with this. Also, like I said, this is this author's debut novel, and this was really good for a debut thriller, so I'm definitely excited to see what they do in the future. I could keep this video going forever. There's so many more thrillers on my immediate radar that I want to read so bad, but I think I'm just gonna read one more book, and I'm thinking I'm going to make that final book. Well, I was having a decision because have you seen the book Her Dark Lies by I think J.T. Ellison? I remember seeing this book was coming out this year at the same time around that I saw Every Vow You Break by Peter Swanson was coming out, and don't they look the exact same? They're also both like islandy wedding books, which I thought was so strange. Like it literally, you could think this was the same book if you weren't paying attention. So I kind of thought that one would be interesting to read to kind of compare it it to Every Value Break, but I also enjoyed Every Value Break so much that I don't want to read another book similar to it right after, and then that like dull my love of the first one or affect my enjoyment experience of the second one. So I don't think I want to read that just yet, but if you've read it, let me know what you think, especially if you've read both. Are they different? Are they similar? What's the vibe? So what I think I'm going to read as my last book is one I am super excited for. It looks super fun. I think it's going to be a really fast read, and that is Finlay Donovan is Killing It. I own this book. It's just over there somewhere. I don't really want to go grab it right now. So I will be reading this book physically. I'm so excited for this. I think it's more of like a kind of mystery slash thriller. I don't really know what the exact vibe's going to be. I feel like it's going to be like more lighthearted because it just seems like it's marketed in that way. All I know about this is it is about an author, Finlay Donovan, who I think is like in a coffee shop somewhere public and is talking about the crime thriller book that she's writing and the murder of someone in that book. And then a patron overhears her and thinks she's talking about a real life crime, a real life murder, and like hires her to murder someone, like thinks she's an assassin, which is like a weird thing to do in a public place, but hey, I'm here for it. So I'm excited to see how that one goes. I think I'm gonna fly through it, and I'll let you know once I get started how it's going. So I am currently about halfway through Finlay Donovan is Killing It, and in a shocking turn of events, I was not loving this book at first and kind of still am not. I have only heard such good things about this book. I really thought it was going to be really fun and kind of like comedic, like a more silly thriller. Like I was expecting this to be really fast-paced, really witty, really charming, and it's not that for me. I do not like Finlay Donovan as a main character. I really don't like any of the characters in this book. So I'm just having some trouble connecting to and caring about the characters because they're just not my type. Finlay Donovan is a very much like suburban mom whose life is really messy and hard, and she doesn't have money to pay the bills, and she's got 2 kids who drive her crazy, and an ex-husband who cheated on her who sucks, and a book that she has to write because she has an advance for it, but oh gosh, she's behind on deadline. She can't get the book written. And I just feel like I've read this character over and over and over again, and I find nothing about her to be charming or redeemable or interesting, and I just do not care about her. I don't like her. I don't like the decisions that she makes. I just would not be friends with Finlay Donovan in real life, so it's hard for me to read the book, care about her. I feel like this is a hot take. I feel like I haven't heard anyone say anything negative about this book, but it's just not doing it for me. I really think I would like this way better in a TV show. It reminds me a lot of Dead to Me, the show with Christina Applegate, and it very much has that vibe. So if you liked that show, I think you would like this book. I loved that show. I just don't love this book because I just don't like the characters, but it has the same kind of feel and vibe of just like normal people getting pulled into the crazy mess of a lot of thrillery things. I don't want to give anything away because there's a lot of stuff that gets kind of crazy in here that you would not expect as the story starts building. It really gets very intense. I did not expect the intensity of what's going on in the story to be so high. I thought it was going to be more like silly and dumb and like no one was actually a criminal doing anything bad, but like there's some dark and shady stuff going on in here. I was not prepared for that. But yeah, I just don't like Finlay Donovan. She's very much like a woe is me. Oh my gosh, I am an author and I have an advance for a book, but oh, I can't write it. Like, I don't know, I don't have any inspiration to write a book. And like, oh, I can't pay my bills because I can't finish my book. My kids, there's like syrup in their hair, and my ex-husband sucks, and I don't like his new wife. Like, I just don't care. I just don't care. As for the rest, like the book's fine, the story's fine. It's just something I would enjoy more on TV for it to be, there's just something about the style that I would rather watch this than read it. But I'm gonna keep going. It's a really fast read, so I don't anticipate it'll take me that much longer to finish it. So I have finished. Finlay Donovan is killing it, and I thought it was fine. I think I'm gonna land on like a 3-star rating for this book. It didn't do anything impressive to blow me away, but it wasn't necessarily a bad book. It was just kind of fine. Like I said before, I really just think I would have enjoyed this more on the screen. I think it would have played out better on the screen for me. I really did enjoy the show Dead to Me, and this reminded me a lot of that, but something about reading it was not as enjoyable or comedic as it would be to watch it out on the screen. I don't really read a lot of like funny books, and this is like a funnier book, and so I just didn't really connect with it. I also just hated like all of these characters. I did not like any of the characters in this book at all. I did not connect to them. I did not care about them. I did not care what happened to them. So it just really kind of wasn't working for me. I do see why so many people love this book, and I do think a lot of people are going to enjoy this book, so I would still recommend that you pick this up and give it a shot, especially if you like sort of sillier thrillers where normal everyday people get pulled into some very crazy things going on in life, because this book definitely gets crazy. There's a lot that ends up happening. It's just not exactly what I would call like a thrilling ride, because it's just sort of absurd and ridiculous and silly a lot of the times. There are like high stakes in certain moments, but I just didn't care about the characters, so the high stakes didn't like affect me and give me that feeling of like really being dug into a thriller, because I just did not care what happened to these people. So yeah, a little bit disappointed because I've heard so many good things about this, thought it was gonna blow me away, but just wasn't for me. If they did make this a TV show though, I would watch it. Also, the way this ends, there's definitely like a cliffhanger aspect, so I'm sure this is going to continue being a series of books. I would not be surprised if this author continues writing more of them. I don't think I would read them unless I was like really in the mood for this particular tone of this book later in life. If another book came out and I was just like craving that, then maybe I would read it, but as it stands today, I don't think I would read it. Like if a sequel was out right now, I would not be picking it up. But again, like I said, I think a lot of people are going to enjoy this, so still give it a shot if you think you might like a little bit of a sillier thriller where a normal person gets pulled into a whirlwind of activities. So that is it for this vlog. I've reached the end of my books. I would call this a very successful reading vlog. I found 2 new thrillers that I really enjoyed, and even though I didn't really love Finlay Donovan is Killing It, I still wanted to read it anyway to know what all the hype was about, so I'm glad I got to read that and know. Now that some time has passed since I've been reading these books and seeing what other people are saying about them, it's really funny to me to continue to see all these negative reviews pour in for Every Value Break by Peter Swanson. People are hating that book. They just do not like it at all. They do not like the direction it goes. I watched the live show on Gabby's channel that she did with Noelle Gallagher, where they talked about the book, and like they didn't like it. A lot of people in the comments didn't like it. They did say they liked the build-up, like the first half of the book, but they didn't like the direction it went, and it does get like absurd and weird and silly and not realistic, but I really enjoyed it, and it's so funny to me to see all these people continue hating this book. And that was like a 5-star, like one of my favorite books of the year, and I have hated everything else I've read from Peter Swanson. So again, I just don't know even how to recommend this book. Like if you hated Peter Swanson stuff, maybe you would like this one like I did. If you liked Peter Swanson's previous stuff, I guess you probably wouldn't like Every Value Break, but it's just a really interesting one to keep seeing all the conversations about because people have such strong feelings about it. I haven't seen as many people talking about who is Maud Dixon. I did, when I was reading reviews, see people talking about a particular character in the book who they thought read a lot older than the way they were written, because they're written to be around like 30, but they read like they're like 60. And I don't think I ever talked about that in the vlog, but I definitely agree with that point. I think that character does seem very old, and it is an interesting choice that they chose to make them like 30-ish years old, because something about them just feels like a 60-year-old person. So if you know what I'm talking about, let me know your thoughts on that too down below. And then Finlay Donovan, I've just seen overwhelmingly positive reviews. It really buzzed up when it first came out, and I haven't seen as many recently, so I don't really know what like people's true stance is on this book, if it was just like promoted heavily when it came out and it was just like the new trendy thing to like, but it's not like an overwhelmingly sensational book. I don't know. I don't really know what the view is on that. So let me know what you think of all these books. If you've read any of them, did you love them? Did you hate them? Thrillers are just like some of my favorite books to talk about, so let me know all your thoughts below. But that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!
What?